Well, hey everybody, I'm considering this the official kickoff video for a new series on my website known as. But the purpose of this video series is to just expose you to the lives of important people from our history and also show you their final resting place. And no, I'm not going to be digging up anybody along the journey. If you ever want to make any caretaker really upset, bring a shovel. So we're going to begin the series here in Oakland Cemetery, which is in downtown Tampa. Now this is like one of the true gems of Tampa that not a lot of people know about. I used to bring my students here and I even got married here. Which is of course a totally different story, but one that you'll get a little bit later in the video. But Oakland Cemetery is the first public burial ground in Tampa. It was deeded as the place to bury Tampa's white and slave, rich and poor. Stories are abundant here, but one of particular interest is the story of William and Nancy Ashley. So here's the gravesite of William and Nancy Ashley, and one thing you'll notice right offhand is it says, "Here lies William and Nancy Ashley, master and servant." So yes, William was the owner of Nancy. Nancy was his slave. And the story goes is that William and Nancy, they were an interracial couple before the Civil War broke out. And they lived up in like Virginia. I think Nancy ended up being from Georgia. But they moved down to Tampa because they felt they could be more open about their relationship. If you do look at the records from the 1850s, you will notice that Nancy is listed as William's slave. But then if you look at the census records from like 1870, you'll see that she's listed as cook. Now a lot of people ask like, well, why didn't he just release her from slavery in the 1850s? Well, the best guess that I have is people could accept the fact that a man and woman were living together as like master and servant, like, you know, slave master, but they could not probably deal with a true interracial couple. But in a will that William had left behind in the 1850s, he had said that he wanted to make sure that his servant girl was well taken care of and that she would be freed soon after his death. But William didn't die until the early 1870s, with Nancy following a year later. Now they left behind money to an executor of their will. His name was John Jackson. Yeah, that's it. And Jackson was supposed to fulfill their final wishes, which the biggest one was to be buried together. According to the laws, Nancy could have been buried in the cemetery, but she would have had to have been buried separate from William. What is most striking about this particular grave is the inscription that's on its epitaph. Now, epitaphs can tell the story. People can tell how they want to be remembered. Sometimes people wrote their own epitaphs. Sometimes they put that, you know, somebody in charge of that. I'm not exactly sure who was in charge of writing this one, but it was according to the wishes of William and Nancy. So let's look at the story that William and Nancy wanted to tell with their gravestone. So it reads, "Here lies William and Nancy Ashley, master and servant, faithful to each other in that relation in life and death they are not separated. Stranger, consider and be wiser. In the grave all human distinction of race or case mingled together in one common dust." And so I think that's such a beautiful message to leave behind, because people, you know, since their death in the 1870s have come here to Oakland Cemetery and have been able to like learn a lesson from their life. You know, that basically, you know, we are not so much different. You know, we create all these differences, you know, here on earth. But in the grave, you know, whenever we're dead, we're all basically rotting in the same dirt. So it doesn't really matter what race you are or where you come from, how much money you had. In the end, we're all going to be together no matter what. So that's why Steve and I chose to get married here in Oakland Cemetery, because, you know, we kind of drew parallels between their story and ours, because, you know, back then they were not legally allowed to get married. And, you know, until just a few short years ago, Steve and I couldn't have got married either. At the end of the ceremony, we had roses for all of our guests. And they all came here and they laid them at the grave of William and Nancy Ashley as a tribute to their love and the beginning of our marriage. But I do thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and check out my website, oneofmylandadventures.com, and just check out and see what I'm all about there. And until then, I'll see you at the next grave, and have a good one. Take care.